Mucho Macho Man just keeps on finding on the lead. Will take charge late from. Oh, it's close. Mucho Macho Man, the more they asked, the more he gave.
He was a big, lanky horse that needed to mature. He just had a lot going for him. It was good to see that he liked his job.
Mucho Macho Man wins the Risen Star.
Mucho Macho Man wins the 126 Suburban in a dazzling time.
Macho Man did it!
And a scintillating performance from Mucho Macho Man and Gary Stevens.
You know, strangely enough, or not, when we purchased Macho, it was after his first race at Calder, and was actually watching the race to purchase another horse, and he caught my eye because he came out of the gate so well.
Dina Springs race recap of the week, the $300,000 Grade 2 Risen Star Stakes.
Nearest the inside is Mucho Macho Man, who battles for this final furlong. It's Mucho Macho Man in front of Santiva, then Rogue Romance. Machen is fourth for Rajiv Barrage. Mucho Macho Man wins the Risen Star.
When he walked on the racetrack, he was about 10 feet away from me, and he was a chilled out customer. He was very relaxed, and I told myself he's either going to relax and run a huge race, or he's a flat horse that's returning too quickly off of a race where he was ranked.
Once he settled out, I was expecting him to make a big finish, and he sure did.
He ran a great race. He looked like he was flipping his ears a little, and I was a little worried because he kind of got lost in the lead, but he finished very well.
He relaxed, he didn't lose his cool, and he waited for Rajiv Mirage's call before he accelerated.
I thought that was a pretty good race, really, a legitimate prep.
And Mucho Macho Man, these two for the final 16th. Nero's closing fast. It's pants on fire for Rosie Napravnik.
Kathy Ritvo came by the winner's circle here. One of the assistant starters brought the horseshoe. He blew a shoe at the start. All of the nails were still in the shoe. There was actually a piece of hoof in the shoe, so it sounds as if he caught himself, grabbed a quarter leaving there. We'll try and find out a little bit more about that, but he ran a pretty game race for losing his shoe at the start and grabbing a quarter.
In the main gate, there are 4 to go. Gentlemen, our next Kentucky Derby contender.
Number 13, Mucho Macho Man.
Mucho Macho Man.
It sounded like a great post for him. I had my heart transplant on November 13th. I was born on February 13th.
When he fills into this frame, he's going to be a big, powerful horse, so I think he's got a lot of upside.
I love, his last work. He worked 7/8 and 23 and change, galloped out a mile and 38. That's real old school. Guys didn't mess around. They laid them on the wood getting ready for a big race. And, Alan Jerkin says it all the time. How does a horse prepare to go a mile and a quarter, a mile and a half, and only work 5 furlongs? It's just a question that I don't know the answer to. But I like to see a horse like this work like that. I'm hopeful when I get to Kentucky and get my eyes on this colt that I see him kind of broaden out a little bit, lose a little bit of that babyish look to him. This horse is kind of starting to get me a little excited. I like that work a lot.
We were talking about the Triple Crown run, and it was really there that the heart transplant came to light for the general public. Was there ever a day that you thought, I might not be able to continue on with my career?
No. No, I always wanted to. I always wanted to come back to the racetrack and train horses. It makes me happy. That's what I like to do. And I've always had a lot of support, so I never thought about it.
You know, he actually ran well in the Derby. He finished well. All of his races are good. The question about Mucho Macho Man is he's already had 9 starts. You have to wonder how much upside he has. But as Richie points out, he's not even 3 years old yet. So there may be more upside than we've seen.
And they're off and running in the 136th Preakness. Shackelford has the lead from Astrology, a length of furlong out. Shackelford has done it. Jesus Castanon a half from Animal Kingdom. Astrology was third, Dialed In, and Dance City.
Needs to learn how to stay in his shoes, does Mucho Macho Man.
He did pull off a shoe again like he did in the Louisiana Derby. I spoke to Kathy Ritvo. She says he feel like he does it when he leaves the gate. He grabs himself when he leaves the gate, and he pulled off a shoe. It was a glued-on shoe. I asked her, will they stick with the glue-on? She said yes. What her mindset was on the Belmont Stakes, much like all the other trainers in this situation right now as we're 2.5 weeks out, everything has to go perfect with this colt to see him in the gate going 1.5 miles in New York, Lafitte. So a lot still to be determined between now and June 11th when we have the Belmont taking place.
Mucho Macho Man to catch. Ron the Greek is taken second. Turbo Compressor third. Mucho Macho Man did it!
This is a very good first indication that he's at least going to be a factor going forward. But it was a popular victory and a fun one to watch with Mucho Macho Man.
Ramon, you've been aboard Mucho Macho Man in his last 3 starts going back to last year's Belmont. What have you seen from him as far as his progression?
I mean, I was very impressed with his last race. He was so forward out of the gate and did it extremely easy.
Ramon, congratulations on this huge effort.
Thank you.
Mucho Macho Man, certainly a serious player in the handicap division in 2012.
Coming back in the fall, what kind of difference did you see before he put together that 3-win streak?
He was definitely more mature, putting on weight, and that was really what I wanted to see was his shoulders catch up to his behind because he was getting tall, and then when his shoulders caught up, and now he's got like a big shoulder on him, and he just was, you could tell that he was a different horse. He was turning into a different horse.
What about yesterday's racing at Gulfstream Park? They had the Gulfstream Park handicap, which was the grade 2. Now, we saw Mucho Macho Man beat then the Santa Anita handicap winner, Ron the Greek, in his last start, and Mucho Macho Man went off at 3-5.
Yeah, Mucho Macho Man earned a 102 Beyer speed figure for his 3rd consecutive win, and this 4-year-old by Macho Uno has become one of the top handicap horses in the country.
Mucho Macho Man has a 3-length lead. Hembook trying to reel him in, but time is running out. There's a 16th to go. Mucho Macho Man in front, followed by Hembook, who continues to close ground, but will run out of racetrack as Mucho Macho Man wins the 126 Suburban in a dazzling time.
That was a classic quality field in the Suburban.
He's doing great coming into the Woodward, and we stuck right to his schedule, and I'm excited to run on Saturday.
Mucho Macho Man coming with giant strides on the outside to honor and serve a stubborn foe. Mucho Macho Man, those two, and to honor and serve, would not let Mucho Macho Man by.
Here he is. He draws post position number 11 for Kathy Ritvo.
And, you know, he hasn't done much wrong this year either. He was a very unlucky loser in the Woodward Stakes. He might have been best that day against Honor and Serve. And he's a horse that can be on the light side. Sometimes he looks a little too lean to me. He looks fabulous.
This is the match here. They hook up, and now down to the wire you see Brian Hernandez asking, and he just continues to receive from Fort Larned in this situation.
Yeah, in the words of Trevor Diffin, the more he asked, the more he gave, and you could see at about the 16th pole, he was going to hold him safe, and it sure felt like if they went around again, they were going to stay in that position.
Yeah, you got to give it up to the winner and the runner-up. I mean, when you're that far clear of the rest, both horses deserve plaudits. And I thought Flat Out did as well as he could to pick up the pieces and be a distant, although non-threatening third in a race in which nobody from off the pace made any impact whatsoever.
I was very proud of him, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to get him here. It takes a lot to get a horse to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Good morning/afternoon, whichever applies, and thanks for joining us here on HRTV. So what are we doing here? What are you doing? I know what I'm doing here.
It's the first day I've got to come on with no tie on.
Yeah.
That's because I've been working horses out here this morning, and gee, Stephen, been a lot of speculation. People have been seeing me out there working horses in the morning, and a little bit of weight loss going on and stuff. And yes, I'm coming back on Sunday.
Today you're riding in the 6th race. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, and really things haven't changed. Doing my normal routine I did when I rode. I was up at 5:30 this morning, had my coffee at home. Out and pretty excited.
And away they go.
Jamboree done, maybe Tuesday got out. Maybe Tuesday won it.
I feel great. A little bit of air, but not bad for running a mile first time out and having to get with it the last 16th of a mile, so I feel good. It was like old times out there. It was a lot of fun. Tyler did say as I went by him, he said, "Go get him, Uncle G," when he was on the lead.
Hall of Famer Gary Stevens back in action today.
Branding and Gary Stevens closing strongly. They strike the front with a 16th to go. And here's the first win back for Gary Stevens. It'll be aboard Branding. Branding and Gary Stevens by 3. Tis Me, Tis You was second. Iconic Spirit and Rhinestone Diva. Sean Washington, they're going in quickly. Huntsville will be the last one. In this time, gates closed. They're all set. Feel for the San Marcos sent on their way. The more they asked, the more Slim Shady gave, and Slim Shady and Gary Stevens have won the San Marcos. Interaction had to settle for second. Slim Shady. Very nice, Mr. Stevens. Slim Shady's a 5-year-old round gelding by Val Royal.
Wayne, post positions 3, 6, and 7. Are you pleased with your draw?
Very much, very much. I think it's a chance. Oxbow finally drew a post position. It looks good for him.
Oxbow and Gary Stevens to win the Preakness in an upset over 8's My Lucky Day.
At 50 years old, to be able to not only come back, but to win a Preakness stake, it's sweeter than any one of the races that I've won. To stand here 5 months after a comeback, I can't explain this feeling that I have. I wish I could bottle it.
The good news from the Mucho Macho camp that Mucho Macho Man will race again next year. So a lot of these Breeders' Cup heroes we will look forward to seeing in action next year, Scott.
He's been doing very well, very well. Great since we got back, and he loves this racetrack and training here. He's actually back in the same schedule, he's had 2 months in between races, and he will be wearing blinkers when he runs this time, just to focus him a little better. And he's doing really well.
They're off in the Sunshine Millions Classic. And the two of them just went by Mucho Macho Man. It is Ron the Greek who's taken the lead. Mucho Macho Man is not firing today. He's dropping back through the field. Ron the Greek turns for home with a 4-length lead. Ron the Greek, a dominant performance in the Sunshine Millions Classic. And then it was Cash Rules, followed by Fort Loudon and Atoned.
What happened to Mucho Macho Man? He was 40 cents in the dollar, and he was eased and virtually pulled up. So I hope he's going to be okay. I hope he is okay.
Mike Smith quoted as saying when he got off the horse, he said, it's got to be something inside.
Yeah.
Got to be something. So I'm sure we'll hear maybe about something with Mucho Macho Man in the coming days.
And they're off. Mucho Macho Man gets off to a good start. Hembook comes through on the inside of Mucho Macho Man, who is now back to third. San Pablo scores by 3 decisive lengths. Hembook was second. Mucho Macho Man could only manage third today.
Now joined by his trainer, Kathy Ritvo here on Grandstand. Kathy, thanks so much for stopping by. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
You came out very early relative to other people showing up. I don't remember if you did that last year, and if so, why did you do it again, get here so early in September for this race?
We didn't plan on it last year. We got stuck in the hurricane in Belmont. And so we got out here late on Wednesday last year. This year, the plane was going on the 9th. And we wanted to run on the Awesome again, and I needed a couple works on the track, so it was perfect timing.
But he hasn't won since July of 2012. Is that at all a concern to you with him?
No, not at all.
You just think
not
he
at all.
ran into better horses and ran winning races?
You know, this is his 3rd cycle back this year of races since, you know, he had some time off, and not every horse is perfect, so I'm really happy where he's at right now, and, you know, looking for he ran a huge race in the Whitney this year, and if we got to run back in the Woodward, it would have been super, but, you know, we're here, and it seems to be going really well for him.
He will run Saturday in the Awesome Again Stakes, and with a new jockey, Kathy, Gary Stevens to ride for the first time. How'd all that come about?
We're excited. We're in California. We have to go with the movie star here.
You know where Gary was last year, Kathy, in this race? Sitting in that chair where you're sitting broadcasting, so it's quite a jump for him.
Maybe that's the lucky spot.
Has he been on board? Has he worked the horse? Got on him at all for you?
He has not. He's been with his regular exercise rider, but we have all the confidence in Gary, and everything I pray will work out well.
Back here on the West Coast on what is a star-studded day of racing tomorrow at San Diego Park, the running of the Awesome again. That will go as the 10th race on the card. My favorite, the Macho Man, Mucho Macho Man, coming out for Kathy Ritvo.
Look how long-bodied he is, Peter, and how long his legs are, and his stride reflects that. And I think being out on the outside, it's a great post for him. I think this horse is good at 1 1/8, but I think he's best at 1 1/4.
Last year, on the Breeders' Cup Classic stage with Mike Smith, there were about 3 different points of the race you thought Mucho Macho Man had Fort Larned, and Fort Larned just kept digging, scrapping, and finding just enough to hold off Mucho Macho Man at the wire.
Yeah, he ran very, very well. You can't run any better and lose. That's just a huge effort. I guess the other thing that bothers me about him, and I know there's always reasons why, but he hasn't won since July of 2012.
It's been a long time.
That's a long time. He's been beaten at 2-5, 3-5, and then 8-1 in the Whitney. That's a long time in between W's, especially at 9-5 in a Grade 1 race. Mucho Macho Man, I've gone back and forth this week. The more I watched the Whitney, the more I was unimpressed by his performance. I thought he had a perfect trip. When he was asked for run, he ran, and then he got run over by Successful Dan for second.
Mucho Macho Man right there in third, going third alongside of him. Mucho Macho Man starting to open up on them as they come for home. And a scintillating performance from Mucho Macho Man and Gary Stevens as they take the Grade 1 Awesome again in effortless fashion.
A statement performance from Mucho Macho Man, winning by several in this Grade 1 Awesome Again Stakes.
You are right, Lafitte. That was a statement race. That was extremely impressive.
Going back to when Gary Stevens was doing what we're doing now as an analyst, I remember when he was asked about Mucho Macho Man as a 3-year-old who eventually did finish second in the third in the Kentucky Derby. It's like just wait for this horse to grow into himself. It might not be until next year. It might not be until the year after that. Well, now Mucho Macho Man, who is a 5-year-old, putting forth that performance. Again, his first victory since July of 2012.
Are there any horses that really scare you coming into the Classic?
I don't think so. They're all very good horses, so we have to run against all of them, and they're tough horses.
Mucho Macho Man has just trained brilliantly. He loves this racetrack, and I think after several years of kind of growing pains and some stops and starts, he is finally starting to get full maturity and reach his best strides.
He's a man. He's a Mucho Macho man. And I just love the way he trains, and I think he's going to get the right trip, Scott.
I do too. I expect to see him make that same turn of foot that we saw from him in the Awesome again, and I go back to that race because if you watch it back, Gary, to me, didn't really ask a lot of him. He saved something for that race, and that is the key for this year's Breeders' Cup Classic, having Gary Stevens on him this afternoon, as well as having had him on him in his prep race in the Grade 1 Awesome again.
He's all business. You see him when he comes on the racetrack. The most he'll do is throw a couple bucks and play, but he stands in the gate very well. He behaves in the post parade very well, and I think he tries 100%.
Mucho Macho Man.
I've got to go with Mucho Macho Man.
I want to be a macho.
Gates closed, all set for the $5 million Breeders' Cup Classic, and they sent on their way to a good beginning. Game On Dude broke away nicely. Mucho Macho Man is fast as well. Now here's Gary Stevens and Mucho Macho Man on the far side. He might have to go 4 wide, but he's only 2 off the leaders. Side 3 in a line now. Ford landed at the rail. Mucho Macho Man on the far side and Game On Dude. Mucho Macho Man now takes the lead and kicks for home. Mucho Macho Man is full out now on the outside. Declaration of War will take charge. Mucho Macho Man just keeps on finding on the lead. Will take charge. A late run. That's close. Mucho Macho Man. The more they asked, the more he gave.
Let's take it down to the wire and look for that break in the rail.
Oh, I can't call that.
That is close, folks.
You could argue that Will Take Charge caught a bob right about the wire, and it would have been the only time he had his nose in front, but I got to think the 6 held on Mucho Macho Man.
You can see now Gary Stevens as it starts to hit him as he realizes that he has won the Breeders' Cup Classic. 0 for coming in. You can take that monkey off his back. As you see Kathy running up there to celebrate with Gary Stevens. What a moment this is for the two of them with this horse, and a well-deserved handshake. One of the greatest comeback stories of all time in sports following his win with Beholder and Distaff. Throw that times 10 now after this win with Mucho Macho Man.
He's been a pleasure to get up and, see in the barn in the morning. I love this horse. He's fantastic. He gives us 100%. I'm just very blessed to be here.
It's only been 2 races, but I feel like I've been here with him from the word go, and in a way I have. I was covering for NBC and HRTV The Risen Star in Louisiana when he was a 3-year-old, and I became a fan of his then. I had no idea I was going to be able to sit on his back one day. A horse that gives you everything they don't necessarily want to be hit with the stick sometimes, and I tested it in the Awesome again. He didn't like it. You don't know how hard it was today not to go to the whip, but he doesn't like it. He was giving me everything that he had, and he actually, inside the 16th pole, when I twirled my whip and didn't hit him with it, he surged again. It was like, oh, thank you, buddy. You're not going to hit me. So he's a very intelligent horse and just a cool dude to be around.
And you have some breaking news on Mucho Macho Man.
I do. As a matter of fact, we have just discovered now, after Mucho Macho Man won the Breeders' Cup Classic, there was a lot of talk whether or not he would be retired to go to stud or whether he would come back and campaign in 2014.
After the race, we took a little time to get our thoughts together, and we had, our team evaluate Macho completely. He just checked the boxes. It came out fantastic. I think he's even going to possibly breeze tomorrow. He's doing so well.
Well, Dean and Patty, Christmas came early for you guys this year with the Breeders' Cup Classic. Well, we want to wish you a very happy holidays and thank you for your gift to us at HRTV and the fans for bringing Mucho Macho Man back next year. That's our early Christmas present. So thank you so much for joining us on the show, and congratulations.